Today's video is all about BLUEFIN, the most powerful decentralized financial ecosystem, performant, accessible, and intuitive. Today we're going to be doing a deep dive into this project, looking into some of the fundamentals such as the team, the tokenomics, the utility, and the overall value proposition, trying to figure out whether this project has what it takes to make it to our portfolio. So you know what, let's talk about the news, let's analyze the charts, and let's strategize to capitalize. Welcome to the channel. My name is Mike, and let's get right into it, guys. If you're new to the channel, welcome. On the channel, we talk about cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and all the altcoins looking for opportunity. And the question is BLUEFIN an opportunity? Guys, at the end of the day, we're here trying to figure out this market, whether we should be scaling into some projects. And of course, BLUEFIN is definitely at the top of the list for many of us that are bullish on the SUI ecosystem as the major DEX that is, a lot of people are talking about, giving us a lot more opportunities with regards to trading. It is definitely a hot topic. So we're going to take a look at this, guys. We're going to be looking at some of the fundamentals. We're going to be talking about some of these details. We're going to be using the white paper and the overall website here to kind of navigate this project to see if we get the information we need. We're coming in from a retail perspective. We want to come in and get all the information what we need to get fundamentally bullish, and I'm hoping the team has provided all the details we need in order to get to that level. All right, guys, so let's begin. Let's see what's going on here. Generally speaking, first we'll scrape to the website. We'll take a look at the white paper in a second. The website is looking okay, pretty good, pretty standard with regards to an exchange, because that's what BLUEFIN really is, an exchange. And as we keep on going down, you can see there's a couple key points here. You have the Pro, which is coming out very soon, which we're going to talk about in a second with regards to the release and their roadmap and so on and so forth. And we also have their Spot, which is getting a quick upgrade, a pretty important upgrade very, very soon, but still very active for their first version. So it's definitely available there. And then we have an aggregator, which is coming up very soon. And then the infrastructure, again, infrastructure to power a decentralized financial network that is powerful and intuitive. Early stage research. I'm quite interested in what this actually is going to provide as far as utility. But nonetheless, guys, if you really understand what is going on here, it is an exchange, right? It's an exchange, and you can see that the Pro version, which is going to be coming out very soon, is a high performance derivatives exchange with both regulated and permissionless versions fully released in Q1. So the reality is that we should be seeing this very, very, very soon. Okay, so what we're talking about derivatives, and in fact, is here what we're seeing a trend. We're seeing a trend with a lot of these DEXs coming out with the ability to trade with leverage, okay? To trade with leverage on a decentralized exchange is taking the trading experience, particularly here for crypto, to the next level. And we've already seen some other projects out there that are doing very, very well, and definitely at the top of the news in the last little while, because this is an important thing. And of course, what they're trying to do with these new additional features within the DEX narrative is to compete with the centralized exchanges. Now, is this a viable opportunity? 100%, guys. We know where the choke points lie with centralized exchanges, and decentralized exchanges are the future with regards to transacting in a permissionless way. But in addition, we're still very in the beginning phases of the engineering of these DEXs, which first mover advantage, guys. BLUEFIN is one of the first projects that are out here, trying to lead the way within this narrative, right? So we have to understand there are others, and of course, this deep dive is not about the others, but the competition is definitely there, and there are other projects like Hyperliquid that is out there doing a very similar thing, and we know that there is some space. There's a lot of room for competition within that space. So, guys, this is great. This is great, and especially if you're bullish on the SUI ecosystem, BLUEFIN basically taps into that infrastructure, or that overall narrative, or that ecosystem. Okay, so this is great. So we got a few things to look forward to, which is good. So we're tapping into a bit of their roadmap, just a little bit. Not an official roadmap just yet, but still a little bit of an idea of what they're launching very soon. Committed to a new on-chain standard. Early 2023, we decided to build on SUI. So this gives you a little bit of an idea of why SUI and so on. and it's about Sui's speed. It's the best position to support our vision. And of course, when you're talking about perps and you're talking about trading and you're talking about the speed, you want a blockchain that can handle all of that. So lowest consensus latency in blockchain. So we're going to see a lot of blockchains L1 say that they're fastest with the latencies and all of this. But the reality is there's a lot of fast ones, and Sui being one of them is a prime candidate to have this, to have BLUEFIN hosted on it. So good stuff there. Good choice. Built for the best, backed by the best. Okay, we have some backers, some relationships here, guys. I usually couple up a lot of the partnerships and VCs. These are relationships, whether they be strategic or they just be completely funding or whatever the case may be. What we have to do is keep these very broad. You can see BLUEFIN's liquidity is supported by the top tier market makers. Okay, they have some winter mute is huge. We know that. Okay, that's fine. Experienced leadership. We got Meta. So what we're talking about is not partnerships, but some of the team members have come from places like Meta, Goldman Sachs, Amazon, and so on and so forth. So there's lots of experience within the leadership, which is important, obviously, and it gives a little bit of sense of a bullishness here from a fundamental perspective, knowing that the team has this type of background. We're proud to have support of leading HFTs, venture firms, and product builders. Lots of good stuff here. Every time you see the word capital, ventures, things like that, we are talking about VCs, people that are coming in here and putting in capital to see this project basically come to fruition and basically achieve its goals financially and have that runway in order to get things going, especially new projects. Keep in mind, this project is fairly new, guys. We're talking about a few months old, which is new, and which means that they're still in a building phase. And I'm clearly going to say this, BLUEFIN is still in a very early stage, and Sui in itself is a very early in its age. And we have to understand, as an L1, we start to come up with DeFi options, and it's almost like first mover advantage type of scenario where they'll have some projects that want to come in and dominate the space before others do. So we have some others out there that are in the Sui ecosystem with regards to DeFi, and this is important to understand. But it's all about competition and healthy competition and who's going to be the top dog in the space. Insight and intelligence. We have a few post articles here. This is one of the co-founders of BLUEFIN, and that's that. If you want to go look into that, we have the Spotlight BLUEFIN V3 coming out, and there's an article geared towards that if you're interested. And that concludes the website. Okay, so we got a little bit of everything here. You can see BLUEFIN's takes a holistic approach to security, from smart contract audits, which is important, of course, time threat monitoring with guardrail, and design and monitoring our risk with Chaos Labs. So you can see that there is some, let's say, effort with regards to safety, and that's very important with regards to our capital. So ultimately, good stuff here. At least they have that. That's nice to see. And then a quick summary of the website down here. You can see you have the exchange, the API, documents, blogs if you're interested, brand assets, and so on, different policies, and the socials. We'll talk about the socials in a second, but that concludes the website, guys. So it's fairly straightforward. I appreciate the cleanliness in the sense, the organization, the smooth effect. The white paper is going to give us a little bit more. So let's just jump right into that and see what's going on there. We have some documentation that I would like to go through. An introduction, we kind of introduced it. Okay, the reality is we got some backers: Polychain, SIG, Briven Howard, Digital, and so on. So many others. Of course, a lot of these are VCs that are just putting capital in, and so on and so forth, which is necessary in order to see this thing do well. I know a lot of us don't like VCs, but look at the alternative of a completely fair launch project. There is no runway, there's no capital, there's no listings, there's no nothing. So in a way, it's like it's a double-edged sword. But properly implemented, VCs can be a very valuable option to having raise that liquidity. At BLUEFIN, we allow users to be able to onboard and trade within seconds. Okay, so this is why they partnered up, quote unquote partnered up, because really it's not really a partnership unless they're really working with the Sui team. And what I would like to say here is, given that Sui's still young, it's very possible that they're working together very closely to get BLUEFIN, launched properly. And of course, it's in the best interest of SUI also to have a proper DEX, especially if you're talking about offering leverage scenarios here. It could be very, very viable. So I do feel like they could be working very close, but as far as partnership goes, it's not necessarily a partnership. A team that originated at Facebook is driven by our mutual mission to redefine the on-chain user experience. I'm not saying this is very viable. For sure, they want to improve the on-chain experience, both SUI and BLUEFIN. So they do have, a common, let's say, roadmap. Speaking of roadmap, let's go see what's going on here with this roadmap. To be honest, it is outdated, and this is not a typical roadmap. After me doing almost 100 deep dives every single week, I've never seen a roadmap that was just like this. Like, you need a little bit more detail, and it is outdated. So I'm not going to give it much attention here. It's old. I think it's about 10 months ago. And given that, this is a very new project, I can imagine that a lot of this has already been accomplished and maybe they're looking forward to many more things. Now, we have to understand that a lot of these teams rely on socials to keep you up to date with regards to roadmap, which I find to be extremely informal. It's great to use your socials to keep your community up to date with what's happening, but, formal, documentation such as a Git book could easily be updated. There's no reason why it cannot be updated. Okay, so this for me is not a good thing. We need to keep up to date with our communications, and so on and so forth. Getting started gives you a bit of an idea on how to get going on BLUEFIN as far as an exchange goes, which I'm not going to get into here. It's an exchange. It's very simple. It has all the little features that you can expect for a spot exchange, and there's going to be an upgrade coming out with their V2 or their next version coming out, which is going to add more utility and to the exchange, and of course the pro version with the DEX with perpetuals. This is all very important stuff because at the current moment, the Blue token, the actual token itself, has limited utility. And we're going to notice as we go through this documentation that the utility is highly dependent on the next few weeks, especially as they release some of these applications. Okay, so bear with me here. We're going to get through all of this and I'll explain where we're going with things here as far as the BLUEFIN goes. Now, as we do see depositing, tutorials, perpetual swaps, we're not getting into this in the deep dive. This is a totally different thing. You can do trading, order types, and their order book is quite unique because it is not a completely on-chain order book. Okay, so we're going to talk about that for sure. So we saw the pre-launch markets, we see perpetuals, API doc, there was an airdrop earlier on, BLUEFIN Foundation. So the foundation is an interesting thing here because a lot of the times when you think of a foundation, and particularly they talk about being a DAO, the reality is that there's no DAO yet. And this is one of the biggest issues that BLUEFIN right now is being criticized about, is that there has been a moment in time that the actual Blue token had very little to no utility. Now, lately, of course, with their DEX, they're increasing that utility, and and of course, with the API being able to stake and earn, that's great. And it's very limited, but without a foundation that is basically governed by a DAO, you start to question who are the foundation members, and ultimately how much centralization does that introduce to the actual project itself. This is the major concern right now for me when I'm reading through all of this, and I'll let you know right now that the DAO is not an active DAO. So when you're reading foundation, you got to understand that it's most likely team members that are part of this and calling the shots with regards to the foundation. Okay, so again, I'm not really into faith-based systems and relying on centralized authorities. So this is the thing: how we decentralize crypto projects is through DAOs and the decentralized tokenomics and many other ways. We decentralize our infrastructures. We decentralize as much as we can in order to give that centralized choke point, basically maybe removing it completely. Okay, so just keep it in mind. Now there's rewards. There's lots of rewards for the community. Now we're going to talk about tokenomics in a second. Trading perps. Okay, let's see what we got going on here. Introduction, BLUEFIN. We got the spot. Okay, introduction. This is their whole spot trading platform. If you're interested in spot versus perpetuals, this is something that they're currently working on. It's going to have its moment where they're going to be able to switch from spot to perpetuals, which again on a DEX right now, that's the biggest trend at the current moment. So you might want to think about that. Getting started, protocol features, the swap, the liquidity pools. This is all very typical of an exchange, and they are definitely having this having all these options. Okay, so very, very important stuff. Now there is something that I want to talk about, which is, let's see if I can find that here. Claims, rewards, liquidity, and the pools, and getting started. There's a lot of little features here. Rebalancing. We're talking about a lot of little technical aspects that are critical for an exchange. Swapping, placing limit orders, and so on and so forth. So you can see they give you a full description on how this thing works. And if you've been in the crypto space for a while now, you pretty much are comfortable with how to use an exchange. Okay, so that's pretty cool. I like that they give you all of this, and so on and so forth. Okay, so let's quickly go down here and forget the tutorials. And rewards is interesting because there's a lot of rewards for users, right? You can see right now you can earn points with BLUEFIN by trading and doing your things. So earning points by trading, this is great. Like, this is good. If you want to get involved and start trading, you're going to earn by using and participating, which is good. It's almost like an airdrop, let's per se. And as we keep on going down, the foundation, again, we have this a BLUEFIN foundation statement, and we talked about that. Getting started, protocol features. Let's see what the protocol features. Swap, no tutorials, no, we did that. And API docs, rewards, BLUEFIN token. Let's take a look at the blue token. Now there's not much info here. It's very, very limited. And what I would like to say is that you can see that there's a 1 billion unit supply, and there's the official contract address. Token distribution schedule can be viewed here, which we're going to look at in a second. Blue token can be purchased on these exchanges and a few more. I'll give you an updated version of all these little details in the summary. Be prepared that I'm going to have it on other socials, and I'm going to give you a breakdown of it towards the end of this video so that we can summarize all the little findings that we see here. On ramping directly to BLUEFIN, security, we got code audits and spot audits, governance. Again, the BLUEFIN DAO, there's a lot of talk about DAO, unfortunately, with no DAO implementation. So there is no DAO. We'll soon manage BLUEFIN protocol. There's nothing yet. Okay, so I'm not gonna spend more time here. The governance doesn't exist, the DAO doesn't exist, and so on and so forth. And because the part of the reasoning is the fact right now they're focusing on providing the applications. So the actual exchange applications, that's their main focus. Now, what happens after that? Do we get it down? Perhaps, and hopefully, and moving on forward, we get some exchanges or dexes and all these other little features that we're waiting for. So that's good. So that's the token itself. There's not much detail there, and we'll talk about the tokenomics in more detail in a moment. It's BLUEFIN Guard, the governance we talked about, and so on, and there's an ambassador program. And so we can kind of get an idea what is actually happening here, which is pretty good, because a lot of us, when we go through a project, we start to feel like it needs to be complicated. And what I liked about what we see here, it's not as complicated. It's not very complicated at all. It's a DEX that is offering perpetuals. Okay, this is the future. Okay, so let's keep that in mind. Now, there is, some things that we need to discuss, which, again, going on forward, the aggregator that could be coming out and all the other things. But just keep in mind that the vision, introduction to Blue, a proposal from the BLUEFIN Foundation, we have to understand that there is some aspects of the token distribution and the release schedule. Now, initial circulating supply was at about 150 million. That's a significant amount to start with, but it's it's fine because there's a billion tokens that eventually need to be released. And the good news is that the vesting schedule is over 5 years. Okay, so it's not like they're going to come out all at once, but investors and teams have a 3-year vesting with a 1-year lockup. Okay, so this is important as well, because as we go through time, you're going to see some of these tokens hit circulation. And of course, if you're worried about dilution, I don't feel like you need to be that worried, because it's going to take 5 years in total. So bit by bit, it will be released. You will see a bit of sell pressure as they do get released, but as long as demand outperforms supply, there will be no issues with a few tokens entering the market over time. This is what we have to understand. However, there are other things. For example, 52% of the ecosystem is applied to ecosystem growth. 52%. Now, how do they define ecosystem growth? User incentives? Okay, that's really good in the sense that we want to entice users to get all involved and use the protocols and everything that they got going. So, and this is good. New users, a portion of them will be available at TGE, at Genesis, when it all starts. They're going to have some of these tokens ready to distribute for marketing to get everybody interested, which is great. Well, the rest is unlocked over a couple of months. Any unclaimed amounts will go back to the BLUEFIN treasury, and then this word treasury usually belongs to a DAO. So now we start to question, okay, so there's a treasury, okay, and we'll get to the treasury in a second. 12% for post-launch incentives, reward trading, liquidity provisions, and future growth initiatives. So this is where they're trying to, get the users all involved, and it's vested over 5 years. So slow and steady, 32% of the tokens are going to get released. Now, what you have to understand or ask yourself, why would people want these tokens? Right? Well, it's all based on the BLUEFIN value proposition. What value does BLUEFIN offer? And again, it's that completely decentralized trading experience. That is why people would want this token. Okay, so protocol development. This is another, scenario. A bit at TGE, and the rest over the next 2 years. A portion of the supply will be allocated to the BLUEFIN Foundation's reserve. So we're starting to see more foundation, more words that start to believe, like who the treasury, the foundation, who's in control of these tokens. And it's not many. I'm not saying that there's a lot, but they add up. And of course, you have a whole other category of treasury as well down here. 3-month cliff, 36-month investing. So it's not coming out all at once, but nonetheless, these tokens, is there some sort of centralization that we need to worry about here? And I would say, as long as there's a vesting schedule, and as long as the team is doing the right thing, and eventually they do get a DAO going where maybe the treasury is governed by the DAO, I think we should be pretty good, because we want the liquidity provisions that are readily available for the cost of doing business per se to have some decentralized aspect, right? And the decision making not to be allocated to a central authority. That's where I'm thinking right now. And then you have the liquidity reserve meant to provide liquidity for the DEXs and so on and so forth, and so on. So this is typical. Now you can see that it's not bad, but then again, how do these tokens get released? Even the rewarding structure, we want to see a little bit more detail there. Strategic participants, 3-year vesting, 1-year cliff. These are early investors. These are early stakeholders, right? And I would say the core contributors are equal in the sense that they're here early. They're here early. They got good entries. They are emotionally attached, and many other connections or attachments to the actual success of the project. However, guys, a lot of the times, even these strategic partnerships, the reality is that they want profit, right? Especially if you're a VC, your VC is here to get this project off the ground and make a quick return on their investment. And de-risk, especially in an environment where there's lots of speculation and risk. Okay, so VCs are great, but you have to understand their business. They are not necessarily in the blockchain Web3 business. They are in the business of investing and getting return on their investment, regardless of the industry that they're in. Okay, so this is always important to understand, that VCs are not completely our friend, although they are, because they help projects get off the ground. They're there for a maybe completely different reason than we are in. Okay, for the reason why we like BLUEFIN. So just understand, eventually they will take profit, and then particularly at the top of a cycle or a top of a run, they will take full advantage of the price and take profit. Okay, so we have to follow where that money is, how that money is being allocated, or basically, profits being taken. Now, blue distribution over time, you can see that in the beginning, things are a little bit more aggressive, particularly after a year. You can see that in the beginning's not that bad. It's still like, releasing. And I'll let you know that we're only 3.5, almost 4 months in, which means that we're going to be picking up very soon. And, in about, I would say in another 6 months to 10 months, we'll start to see an impulse in, tokens being released across the different categories. And that's that's going to be tough. That's going to be tough. Now, it could be directly in alignment with the bear market, which would be even in a way better, because when the market is bullish, we're going to start to see this price run. And the last thing you want is to see blue being held back by its circulating supply, by the increase in supply of tokens, because that sell pressure or that dilution will cause sell pressure. And in a bull run, yes, people technically wouldn't want to take profit, and they would hold on very tight because the price is flying, the market is flying, and they won't want to sell. But eventually they will sell, and this is the biggest concern, that once we see this impulse in token release in the schedule, where are we in this market cycle? Are we in a bear run? Are we in a downtrend? And if we're in a downtrend during this moment, guys, we'll see tons of people taking tons of profit. Okay, just be aware of that, because people are not going to hold on to see their portfolios dump while the market is flying and tokens being released like that. That's a steep increase. Okay, just keep in mind, at least it's over 5 years. Just keep that in mind. It's nice and slow and steady, but still over 5 years, and the pickup is right into this zone. In about 12 months, we should see a little bit more. On-chain governance will guide the implementation of additional functions. Again, there's no DAO, so there's a lot of talk about DAO, which is very, very, very deceiving at the current moment. A lot of people are complaining about this fact that they bought the blue token, and prior to the actual exchange being listed, a lot of people are still salty on the fact that there was nothing to be done, or the utility behind blue didn't exist. But of course, you got to stick in there, guys. It's a small project, and as they increase their applications, their dApps, their decentralized applications, such as the exchanges and the perpetual exchange and so on and so forth, we are going to increase that utility. And eventually, whether there's a DAO or not, or when it does get released, I would highly recommend, particularly the fact is that they're in DeFi, that they have a decentralized organization, of course, but we have to understand that this project is still very, very, very young. Okay, so you gotta measure it based on where it is in its product life cycle as well. You can't come in and compare this with a protocol that has been out for years upon years. It wouldn't be fair. You're still in speculation via its market cap. Its market cap is very small, and you're going to expect a lot of volatility. You're going to expect a lot of emotion, and as those tokens get released, you're going to expect again more sell pressure and this and that happening because of its current status. So it's all about your risk tolerance and how you want to balance your portfolio via that risk appetite that you may have. So there's a lot of things to talk about: BLUEFIN grants and programs, and then there's a frequently asked questions that you could definitely take a look at, and so on and so forth. So not bad. What else do we have here? Let's keep on going through this. So before we move on, I want to go back to one of the main points, and it has everything to do with centralization and decentralization. And one of the things, especially with exchanges, is how is the order book being used? What kind of order book do they use? Essentially, is it an on-chain or off-chain order book? And one of the things that I stumbled upon is the advantages of using off-chain order books in DeFi. So they do use an off-chain order book, which increases a couple of performance performance and so on. But obviously they've considered the automatic market makers and a virtual AMM, and of course bonding curves and all of this kind of stuff. But the performance of a centralized order book system is a lot better. Of course, that's usually the case, guys. You get a completely, the off-chain order book efficiently matches orders and subsequent sends them to on-chain settlement engine for execution. So it's almost like there's a back-end order book that eventually is used and then gets placed on an on-chain order book settlement engine, which is fine. But we have to understand that there's disadvantages. An advantage of on-chain or off-chain order book. So in an off-chain order book, performance is high, experience with low latency in order exchanges, and efficiency matching are essential. So flexibility, support for a broader range of trading strategies, scalability, handling lots of orders, and so on, and security. Off-chain order books contain the security and transparency of decentralized systems while allowing users to retain control of their funds. This is definitely I really don't feel that's completely valid, but that's not the point. The point is the disadvantages. Centralization. So off-chain order books include or introduce a degree of centralizations as they rely on third-party systems for order matching and execution. So users must trust the off-chain order book provider to trigger a fairly execute their orders accurately. So there's a bit of centralization in a faith-based system with regards to their order book. And given that it is an exchange, this is a big part of their mechanism. Okay, so maybe something to consider, maybe something not to worry about, because eventually maybe we might see an upgrade in the future when things settle and of course the engineering improves, that maybe there is a moment in time where everything can be on chain. Okay, this is something we have to understand. It's almost like comparing keeping your data on on AWS or a third party service or you keep it on a decentralized storage system, type of thing, a DePIN protocol. This is almost like a very similar thing for Blue, and it could be something to think about. Okay, so let's move on from that. Let's continue talking about tokenomics, because again, we're talking about centralization and decentralization. I would like to say that overall their wallets are very decentralized. There's not one wallet that holds all the tokens, which is really good. I went on SuiScan to kind of check that all out, which is fine, which is great. We can see all that details right there. So you can see the biggest wallet is 3%, and it's a contract wallet. So it could be, it's very safe. You can see you got Gate, BitGet. This is all for liquidity for exchanges, which is necessary. Okay, so that's important. And then we start to see some of the vesting schedule, and untracked vesting right now is in here, but I'm sure that this belongs to the tokens that are going to be allocated for the community and so on. That bigger 32% of the tokens coming from, let me see if I can show you exactly what I'm referring to, which is this right here. Okay, the user incentives, that's where it lies, and it's untracked because it's going to be entering circulation eventually over the next 5 years. Okay, so fully unlocked. And now you can see that around December, this is where we started to see the strategic partnerships, the core contributors, and everything starts to ramp up eventually, and we have to expect more dilution. So just keep in mind that this is the case. It's a nice, slow and steady 5-year vesting schedule, but there's some little details there that we need to consider. Moving on, this is what their DEX looks like. Obviously, you're going to get a lot more details and more those little features once you connect your wallet. I don't have a wallet connected here, but this is what it looks like for now. Remember, they're coming out with a major upgrade very soon. And speaking of that, let's go right into their socials, because this is where they talk about their upgrades coming soon. A little bit right here. I like this post right here, and this is what I based a lot of my future thinking about what's happening in week 1. So this was posted on April 2nd. So in week 1, we have a BLUEFIN X, which is an upgraded version of their current DEX, okay, which what they got going on, which I just showed you. In week 2, they have BLUEFIN Pro coming out, so 2 weeks after, I would say, more or less, April 2nd. And then they have in week 3 something coming out. They got something coming in week 3. Nobody knows. And this is important because it could be a major upgrade. It could be a major implementation to their product offerings. And we need to be prepared that buy the rumors, maybe sell the news, or buy the rumor and maybe start pumping, especially if the market starts looking strong again, right? So this is part of the issue of deploying projects when the market's on a downturn, is a lot of the times you lose out on the hype. But if we start to see a reversal very soon, this could be well implemented 100%. Now that we're here looking at some at their X account, they got a decent amount of followers, guys. They got 112,000 followers, and for such a new project, that's pretty good. I think it was able to grasp a lot of these new followers based on the fact that it's participating in one of the hottest new L1s out there, which is Sui. So that's pretty good. And you can see that they're proud of their Polychain and Broward Howard Digital and all these others, their connections there, which is great. You can see that they have a Discord. They also have a Telegram, which is great. They have both. Both of them are fairly active. I would say their Discord is much more active. I do appreciate that a little bit more. And again, we'll talk about socials a little bit more in a second. But, I've noticed that they could get a little bit more engagement. And I'm telling you right now, it's not just them that is suffering right now with regards to social engagement. It's a lot of right now, crypto is not the hottest topic, let's per se, given that the market is not looking good. So we got to understand where they're coming from. They're swimming against the current at the current moment, but they're still holding up. But of course, a little bit more engagement would be nice on some of these posts, given that they have over 100,000 followers. It would be ideal to see a little bit more engagement there. So maybe a bit more creative here, maybe a little bit more happening could be really healthy for them, but still not bad of an implementation with regards to socials, particularly looking at their size. They're doing pretty good. Now let's talk about the team for a bit here. What's going on with the team? I was looking over the team quite a bit in the last little while, just trying to get my wrap my mind around some of the talent. Guys, the project is solid as far as its team. They got a lot of good members here. They got various aspects that are necessary talent in order to make this project succeed. We have blockchain enthusiasts, we have community managers of finance, the founders we're going to talk about in a second. We have engineers all over the place. I was looking at strategy, and so many important talents that are necessary, which for me is ideal. It's whether you're young, a small project or not, it doesn't matter. You need some of that talent, and there's a lot, guys. There's a lot. So feel free to go scrape through these all, because you can see there's tons of engineers and so on, and VP of engineering and software engineer, full stack engineers, front lawyers, and this and that. There's a lot happening here, guys. So again, it's a full-on deep dive to go through all of these dudes, but what I really do is focus on the founders. Now, if we look at the founders themselves, let me see if I can get this loaded. Here we go. University of Pennsylvania. We have Rabiel. He's co-founder, London. That's where he's currently situated. But you can see that, to present, he's a member of certain other associations, which is fine, but it seems like he's completely focused right now on BLUEFIN, which is the ideal scenario, okay, ideally. And as far as his education goes, a systems engineer and a bachelor's degree in physics. So he obviously is well equipped to get things happening here with regards to his education. His experience, I don't see much happening with regards to crypto per se and blockchain and Web3. It would be nice to see that, but there isn't. Maybe there is that he didn't include here, but I don't see anything here. So keep it at that. And then we move on. We have Zabi. Another co-founder, Blue, co-founder at Blue, co-founder at Seed Labs. I'm seeing the Seed Labs across many profiles, here. Now, this individual, although he's the founder, he has very little in his description. So it's going to be a tough call. He's based in London. I see he went to Western University out in Toronto. But still, I don't see much happening here. with regards to his experience. So maybe he's just trying to keep anonymous. I'm not sure. Let's move on. And then we have Ahmed, co-founder and CTO at BLUEFIN. I think that this would be another heavyweight player into the project. University of California, Berkeley. Okay, heavyweight university. And then again, co-founder at Seed Labs. I'm really, I don't want to do a deep dive on this on Seed Labs, but I'm very curious of how this plays into BLUEFIN in itself. But regardless of that, you can see he's a software engineer. He's a full stack engineer. He's a software engineer, and a computer science major here at University of California. This is a good leadership as far as at least having well-rounded top the team, the CEOs and co-founders are basically, it's not like they don't have any tech experience. Together as a team, I think they're very solid. So I appreciate that. And going on from there, you have lots of experience and his education. So I think that this could be the man of the match here, but still very, very good stuff here. I like the team, young, new, fresh, and potentially very hungry. Okay, so let's just keep that in mind, all of this in mind. So what can I say here? I could say that ultimately we have a project that is fresh, that is new, and that has some things that is trying to achieve in the next little while, and we could definitely see some good things out of BLUEFIN. All right, guys, so as per usual, I do give you guys a quick review of the entire scenario that we in the entire deep dive. Here's a review, and I'm going to post this all over the socials, so feel free to download that and critique it and poke at it on the socials. I'll post this after the video is posted. And BLUEFIN, it's a DEX, right? Obviously, and its ability now is to introduce leverage trading for those traders out there that are interested in full custody while still being able to trade. And that's a great value proposition, right? Amazing stuff. So let's take a look at some of this. The ecosystem, they got the spot DEX that is soon going to become BLUEFIN, a BLUEFIN X, and then you got BLUEFIN Pro, which is around the corner. Like I mentioned, within the next couple of weeks, but because it's not here yet, I have to base it on what it has at the current moment. Okay, that's the reality. So we're still in speculation that this eventually, once they do get released, this could be rated maybe even as high as 10 out of 10. That's the reality. So where are we right now? We are in potential mode to see an increase in price. People are speculating here. It's very possible. So align yourself accordingly. 6 out of 10 won't be here once this gets released. And like I mentioned, it's going to happen any moment. By the way, guys, their roadmap needs an update. So I'm running their official documented roadmap needs a major upgrade there. But I'm running off of what I see on socials. And again, it's back to this. In about a week, we're going to see BLUEFIN X, a BLUEFIN Pro, and then a surprise, perhaps. Who knows what, right? And again, that speculation should drive some interest. And I'm giving the roadmap an 8 because at least they have one, but it needs an update. And at least you're keeping the audience or their community up to date with on socials, guys. But that's not an excuse. We got to get those official documents nicely polished, especially now where people are looking for any excuse to buy the dip. You want to be able to capture all of that mind share, and in order to do that, you need to make sure your documentation is on point. There are some really smart retail investors nowadays, and those are the people that have the ability to be very convicted. Okay, let's go back to utility. Back up a second here. You got staking, you got trading rewards. However, I got to be very clear about this, and I'm going to say this a couple of times like I already have done. The governance, there is no governance at the moment. You could be a token holder. There's no DAO, there's no governance. That part of the utility does not exist. So although it's peppered all over the website and the documentation, it's not there. So it's a bit, unfortunate that it is there and they're not providing that. So I'm going to say that's 6 out of 10 right there. In fact, I would say be careful with those expectations because they do not exist at the current moment. Okay, so let's move on. Let's move on from that. That's the utility. Sorry, guys, and we got the team. It's a large team for its size or its life cycle where it is at the current moment. Only a few months old. The reality is the team is well established. I would say one of the 3 founders have a good amount of tech experience, whereas the others, I'm not sure if they do, but they they seem very intelligent and very capable, and if they do have some backgrounds in tech and so on and so forth, or in crypto or anything, it would be an ideal time or place on their LinkedIn to provide that information. But right now, everybody else that is underneath the founders very talented. The founders themselves, a lot of the times, they could even be silent partners for all we know, right? So that's the truth. And then they hire the correct talent to make things happen. And that's what I see there, a full developed team that has lots of potential. So I give the team high ratings for that reason. And then the socials is not bad. I'll be honest, it's not bad. And I have to consider the fact of this current sentiment in the market. I cannot expect them to get, millions of likes and retweets and reposts and this and that engagement in summary, while the rest of the space is suffering. And this is the truth. They have 112,000 followers on their X, which is great. Which is, for their size, I think it's amazing. But I do expect more engagement. Now, is it fair to expect it today in this current moment? Maybe not, but it would be nice to see at least a little bit more engagement. So let's leave it at that, right? Discord is active and mods are very helpful. I would like to say my experience on their Discord was great. Telegram is also available and active, but I prefer the Discord, and I am pleased to say that it seems like they are putting a little bit more effort in their Discord, and I agree with that. With that model, I agree with that effort, because Discord at the end of the day could support such a bigger community with higher quality interaction, rather than Telegram being very, very messy, noisy, and very difficult to have high quality conversations, especially when retailers are coming in trying to get some answers to some of their questions. Okay, so it's easier to have conversations on Discord. Nonetheless, good stuff there from socials. Tokenomics, it's a little bit difficult here. It's difficult because when you're a new project, technically you have a lot of tokens that need to still enter circulation. So you're not fully diluted yet, and that's the risk. And most people, when they look at tokenomics, they say, dang, we got to get all these tokens out in circulation before we can find some stability in price. No, I don't like tokenomics. In my opinion, that's not right. My opinion, it's about speculation as well. Because as long as the demand can outperform the supply, who cares if the supply is going to be increasing, right? Especially if we're going to start turning around this market in the next little while to see a proper bullish move upwards, right? So we have to understand that. We also have to understand that there's a vesting schedule on those tokens. So as those tokens get released, it's not like they're going to get released all at once. They're going to get released over 5 years. So it's slow and steady dilution. However, at the same time, if the team keeps on cranking out new updates and giving new value propositions and more utility for the token, people are going to want to buy and hold that token. And it doesn't matter if tokens are being released, because everybody wants them, and they will be consuming them and hodling through them and staking them and using them, and that utility will provide more value over time, taking those tokens out of circulation informally per se. Okay, so this is something you have to understand. Now, could BLUEFIN achieve that? That is a different story, and this is why I like doing deep dives, because then you can kind of get an idea. Does the team, does the this, does the that have everything they need to make that happen? And I feel like it's so young that we have to understand that it could achieve it. It definitely can, particularly with the next new applications that are going to be released within the next few weeks. However, 48% of the tokens are going to be released to early stakeholders. And I summarized the early stakeholder category as, early stakeholders or early token holders that got released on airdrops or pre-seed rounds, pre-sales, anything like that. These are early stakeholders, including the team itself and the development team itself. The core team, these are early stakeholders. They got in really, really, really early. They got their tokens early, and they are slowly accumulating over time as the tokens get released. And obviously, these individuals are the ones that are going to have the most incentive to take profit or de-risk once the price starts doing very well. This is something that we have to understand. Okay, so let's just be real here. Now, 15% to some sort of treasury, some sort of this is the thing, organization. It needs a DAO. Let's put it that way. We need to have some of that treasury fund to be allocated in a decentralized way. I'm going to keep it at that. It's not that many tokens, but even some of the 32% that is going to be allocated to the user incentives, even some of those, like how are those going to get distributed? Who makes the decisions on how those are going to get distributed? That's still a lot of tokens, guys. So this is when you start to think about who are making the decisions based on how these tokens eventually are going to hit the market once they get released out of their vesting schedule. This is the purpose, or one of the main purposes, of a decentralized autonomous organization. Okay, just throwing it out there. Tokenomics right now are a little, we need a little bit tightening up, but that's very normal for a new project. Okay. Relationships, they got some decent ones. I'll admit, we got alpha phi liquidity opportunities, chaos labs, decentralized derivatives and tradings. They have NFT communities everywhere, artwork. There's one with art and this and that, which is, I don't see the real connection, to be honest. Again, maybe it's just flying right over my head, but I don't see the major connection with the NFT community. I'm not sure why that would be the case, or why there's so much effort there. Maybe it was just an opportunity and they're trying to bring that in. But nonetheless, guys, I think as a young team, relationships are going to be very sparing. And if we use Sui as or Polychain or all these other ones, they're not really relationships per se. I'm looking for really strategic relationships that are going to take this project to the next level. I'm very critical on relationships because a lot of projects just slapped logos on websites and expect everybody to digest that. I'm not really the type. I want to see some real good connections that are going to scaffold one another and work together to get the project going even stronger. Right, so I'm very critical. Take it as it is. And exchanges, lots of opportunity, guys. If you're one of those individuals that like trading exchange listings, this is a good one because they're not on many exchanges at the current moment. They're on Gate, HTX, Orbit, Bitmart, which is they're all very small. Cetus, the main DEX on Sui, Mexi. KuCoin, Mexi is big, of course, and KuCoin is big. You have BitGet and so on. So you have a few, C tier, maybe some B tier, but there's no Binance and there's no Coinbase and there's no Bybit and so on, and those bigger ones. So there's a lot of opportunity here still. Maybe I undervalued this. Maybe it could be a 4 or even a 5. That's not the point. The point is, guys, if you're waiting for more exchange listings, anything under 5 is an opportunity. Right? Anything under 5 is a major opportunity because ultimately all it takes is one major listing or the announcement of a possible listing or anything like that. Guys, this thing's going to run. It's going to start to run. And then when it does get listed on Binance, be prepared for it to take a bit of a dump as well. Right? So this is what happens usually. We speculate based on getting listed because listing increases liquidity and obviously the offerings across more tokens being offered across the market, which is great, obviously. But then once they get listed, there's nothing to look forward to. You reach the end, Coinbase, Binance, and then there's no more, right? And then a lot of people say, you know what, I'm going to start looking at other projects that are going to get listed. So this is an opportunity in my book, right? So although the rating is low, consider it almost like an opportunity to fill it up to get to 10. Right? So that's that. All right, guys, let's take a look at some of these quick metrics as of today or yesterday-ish. Guys, these lower caps fluctuate quite a bit. Just keep in mind that we're at about $20 million market cap. It's very, very, very small. Trading volume is quite large. We're talking about 18.4% of its total market cap, which is quite big. And its circulating supply is about 29% in circulation, right? So we're looking at a max supply of 1 billion and fully diluted is about 70 because obviously we need to get some more tokens out there, which in my opinion is still this is undervalued. I think that the narrative in itself, as far as a DEX or that offers futures, is absolutely bullish for the future of crypto in general. So we got to understand what we're doing here. We're speculating, but at the same time, we can't undervalue projects like this because they are the future. And if you're going to compare them with any other projects, you got to make sure that you're comparing them in the correct way and understanding that they do have an ability to attract fresh capital, especially once we start to see the total market cap run in this space. They're going to be able to attract fresh capital because, of course, their value proposition is hot. So Sui, It's part of the SUI narrative. It's part of it's a DeFi play. It is a DEX. Okay, so it's TGE was December 11th, 2024. So it's very, very young. It's only 3 months and 25 days into vesting. So guys, we're very young here. DAO is not active, so there's no governance really happening right now. So keep that in mind. Vesting, investors and team have 3 years of vesting. Okay, with lockup of 1 year after TGE. So ecosystem and community will vest over 5 years. So I'm putting this here so you understand that the risk of dilution is not really there, even though only 29% of the tokens are in circulation. They are going to get unlocked. It's just slow and steady. Okay, so just understand that. Upcoming dates will provide more utility. The dates that I'm referring to when I say this are these ones right here. Okay, these dates are important, or let's hope that they get released within this schedule. But the BLUEFIN X and the BLUEFIN Pro and the surprise that they might have around the corner is what's going to give the blue token more utility. This is important because at the current moment it's limited to the DEX and to the APY that it can earn for staking. But other than that, once we get more application, we're going to get more utility. And when we get more utility, there should be more demand for people to want to hold, consume, and stake and be a part of the BLUEFIN ecosystem. Okay, so this is important, guys. This is the early stages, right? Backed by prominent investors, including Polychain Capital and so many more. So again, this is good for a new project. They need the runway. They need the liquidity. They need to, they have marketing dollars. They can get listed. They can get on exchanges. That costs money. That requires liquidity. So at least they have what they need to get off the ground, which is necessary. The roadmap needs a bit of an update, guys. I don't accept informal posts on X or blog posts. I want to see something that I could kind of hold to and kind of plan my maybe even plan my DCA towards. Okay, this is something that I really appreciate. Now, Blue with a market cap of Hype, and the only reason why I'm comparing it to Hype is because Hype is offering the same value proposition. It's a DEX with perpetuals, futures, and leverage trading is a big part of the crypto space. We know that for a lot of us traders out there. So to see BLUEFIN, tackle this narrative where there's a lot of upside potential, a lot of growth potential, and competitive potential, it's not bad of a scenario. Hype needs some competition, and here we are. So I'm looking at, look, if Blue could catch up to Hype, we can see it reach $1.50, and even still, that's in my book, that's still light. That's not even a lot. That's 25x. That's fine. But what I'm more interested in is seeing the whole space, including Hype, including BLUEFIN, including the total market cap rise to the point that it's very likely that we even see Hype, even though it is a larger cap nowadays, we can see them all grow even much more. And this is where we see an altcoin season, a bull run, and all this kind of stuff. Right now, a lot of us don't think it's gonna happen, but when it does, and it should, the reality is that even a 25x might be a little bit under. We could even do more. Okay, so I don't want to be too like moon boyish here, but the reality is that I'm evaluating this based on the current total market cap, and we see that we've been eating away at about $1 trillion of market cap in the crypto space. So just getting back to previous high, we should be able to attract more capital than even regular DEXs per se. This offers leverage trading, guys, next level. Okay, and on BLUEFIN, on SUI, which is a hot narrative, hot L1. So keep that in mind. So I'm giving it an overall 7. Okay, so a lot of the times I give this based on just a general, summary rating. It's like, obviously doesn't reflect the future. It doesn't reflect, even what's happening right now, because really nothing is really totally happening. We're waiting from some major dates. But what I'm getting from this is that it could be something to consider, and I am definitely considering it. All right, guys. So it's not bad. Of course, we are questioning now, what about price? What's going on with the price action? As per usual, guys, I do offer charts. So let's begin. Let's take a look at the charts real quick and see what's going on with Blue as a token, guys. Ultimately, guys, the whole market is in a downtrend. It's not exclusive to BLUEFIN. It's not exclusive to SUI or any other. Even Bitcoin is coming down. The reality is the markets in general are right now all feeling the heat, and the bigger question is, should we be taking risk at the current moment? Let's take a look at this in a little bit more detail. So, as you see this, guys, there's no excuse. There's nothing to say other than, guys, we were feeling the pain. No doubt. We're feeling tons of pain. And you can see this was a level that, did offer us an opportunity to de-risk and potentially break a structure to the downside. Was pretty ugly. And then we clearly got in a downtrend from here. Very clearly, quick sell-off all the way down. Now, you can imagine who's been selling here. There's a lot of early stakeholders. Like I always mention, you got to think those people are not going to take risk, especially if they got in super, super, super early below this line right here. Okay, so they're taking profit, guys. They're taking profit. Now, are the sellers exhausted? Are there more sellers here? Now, I'm looking at the daily time frame because really this is the time frame, the only time frame that we should be looking at here on BLUEFIN. Lower time frames, in my opinion, don't really matter because on the daily, we're still waiting for some support. We're waiting for a change of character. Instead of making lower lows and lower highs, we're waiting for an opportunity. We're waiting for the moment that BLUEFIN finally starts making higher highs and higher lows. Now, it could happen. It could happen on the lower time frames. We can get down to the 1 minute and start looking for change of character down there. However, it's not going to be a sustainable one if the daily continues looking like this. Below the 20, below the 50, is not good look. And obviously, it doesn't even have enough data to produce a 200 daily, which is obviously not a good look. Trading volume is not even really there anymore. There's no market participation. And again, I'm saying these things not just based on BLUEFIN. I'm saying this with regards to the entire space is like this at the current moment. Okay, so let's look at some oscillators to get some more data here. You can see that, we've been flatlining here after getting slightly oversold. You can see that there's a bit of a divergence in the bearish responses. The bearish expansions to the downside are getting weaker and weaker over time. And as we still keep on falling, obviously with those bearish responses, this is called a class A bullish divergence. Very, very nice sign to see that every time the bears come in, they're in fact losing their strength to the downside. However, we're not oversold with regards to momentum. We didn't see momentum, the purple line right into here, get actually oversold below the 30%. Now, why could that be? Could it be that maybe BLUEFIN and SUI as an ecosystem, they're too bullish to actually get oversold? Could it be? Could it be that it never gets oversold? Could it be that we're just, waiting for another impulsive move and then get oversold? And then obviously people that are getting into these signals of divergence or, potential looking for a bottom right here are going to get wrecked. This is something that we have to understand here, guys, because if you're trying to pick a bottom without getting completely oversold, the trick is that we could eventually get oversold. And the risk you're taking at the current moment is exactly that. If it becomes oversold, you're going to have to, hodl through and take the hit. So we are still in a downtrend even down here. The good news about a downtrend like this, it does look like we're basically accumulating some capital, some liquidity into these bottoms. People buying in, putting stop losses, buying in, putting stop losses. Could be possible. Maybe there's people even going short, buying in, putting stop losses, shorting stop loss, stop loss, stop loss, and then all of a sudden there's trapped liquidity and then straight up and we get everybody wrecked. But how many people are going long on a downtrend? On a downtrend, there's a lot of people that are fearful and there's not a lot of people taking that risk trying to time a reversal. This is the problem. And the market makers see a lot of the people going short, taking advantage of this downtrend. Of course, the trend is your friend until it's not. And market makers, make it not your friend. And then all of a sudden we see this bottom, we see this nice bottom, a higher low, we see this high, then we go up for a higher high, and we start changing the character here. It's very possible. And I can see that a possible thing at this current moment. Okay, so I kind of like where BLUEFIN is at this level. Now you have to understand we're still taking risk. Why? Because we're not oversold and we're not getting a clear change of character here. Okay, so this is the invalidation of this scenario. If we break up, continue staying above, and in fact, if we can break above this top, I think we're doing pretty good. We can start looking for a reversal. Now, another thing that I want to just point out is that there is a small volume gap right above that could allow the price to fly right back to previous highs or previous price action, which would be these bottoms, which is another interesting level to potentially get rejected. Okay, there are some people that are holding positions here, shorts with stop losses, okay, that will get triggered if they come up here and then maybe come back down. We'll get a bit of volatility into this level. People that, you know, maybe want to enter shorts on a confirmation of a rejection right here. We'll see some of that. And then ultimately what we have to focus on is how much supply and demand is there in the market. Is demand outperforming supply? Because if demand continues to outperform supply, regardless of the reaction here, regardless of this reaction, eventually, if the demand is outperforming supply, we should get a recovery and a bounce and start moving to the upside again and get every short that put in here squeezed. Short squeezes are great because ultimately they get, you know, squeezed out of their positions. Their positions get sold to the market. We get an inflow of capital of tokens, and then we start moving to the upside in a bigger way. The actual target that I'm interested in seeing is at about 15 cents. But we got a bit of work to do here, guys. This is the reality. We're talking, you know, ahead. We're trying to stay one step ahead. We have to be very clear that BLUEFIN is still in a downtrend. So how do you play this? You play it safe. Right? In my opinion, it's all about spot. It's all about spot. I would be accumulating spot slow and steadily as we produce the confirmations that we need. We do see that the trend oscillator is looking good as well. We have 3 drives of Class A bullish divergence also on these expansions. And in addition to that, we see the EMAs that are trending to the upside, potentially looking to get into the bullish control zone, which is above the zero. We want to get above here. We want to see this bearish expansion, bullish expansion. We want to see purple expansions up here. Once we see those expansions to the upside, we're going to start running. And that's where things start to get really hectic for a bullish experience. Okay, so we're there. The question is, where's the bottom? And when are we going to get that? Guys, I would be looking for a change of character. Okay, that's what I'm looking for. So let's put some text in here. What I want us to see is a change of character. Okay, without the change of character, and into this level, the only alternative we really get is to see a break of structure. Okay, which would mean that we start breaking again to the downside, breaking this structure, but continuation. Just remember, break of structure is continuation pattern. A change of character is a reversal pattern. So we look for pivot point structures into this level, suggesting that we're going to start making higher highs and higher lows instead of lower lows and lower highs. BLUEFIN is at critical moments, and it's not just BLUEFIN, it's the rest of the space as well. We are at critical levels, including Bitcoin, critical moments of a potential reversal. And if it doesn't happen, guys, we're at critical levels for a break of structure to the downside. Unfortunately, that's the case. Okay, so of course it's up or down, but at least we have clear invalidation. If it breaks below 0.0609, guys, we're coming down. And if we can hold this level, even if we get some sort of, you know, manipulation right here, you know, some inducement, and then come back up, back test in spring, this would be absolutely bullish. Just be careful what happens here, because this is where market makers get a lot of stop hunts liquidated or liquidations. Right around here, people put their stop hunts, their stop losses, and then market makers push the price there temporarily just to get everybody wrecked, and then back up we go, and here he comes, right? Don't get shaken out, guys. That's why spot is great. There's no liquidation level. You accumulate nice and slowly and wait for that reversal. We are going to get it soon. The thing is, we don't know when, so just deploy DCA nice and slow. All right, guys, if I've offered you any value here in this video, in this deep dive, do the channel a massive favor. Slap the like button. It does really help out with the algorithm. If you want to follow me on the socials, the links are in the description. Better yet, guys, join the Discord. The Discord is where it's at. Lots of good alpha, trade setups, fundamentals, and learning material. The best part is it's absolutely free. Take care, guys. Have a good one. And don't forget, buy the dip.